Okay, it's 5:31. I'm calling to order this public hearing of the City Council of the City of Bandera. Excuse me. We're at 511 Main Street, City Hall, Thursday, August the 4th, 2022. Mayor Pro Tem Rebecca Gibson is present, Councilman Rush is present, Councilman Christine Morris is present. Tony is not here, I haven't heard from her, and neither is Darcy. Item 2 is discussion of possible action on the following item. Texas Community Development Block Grant Program. The City of Bandera will hold a public hearing at 5:30 p.m. on August 4th, 2022 at Bandera City Hall regarding the submission of an application to the Texas Department of Agriculture for a Rural Economic Development Pilot Program Grant, Texas Community Development Block Grant Program, TXCDBG Grant. The purpose of this meeting is to allow citizens to opportunity to discuss the citizen participation plan, the development of local housing and community development needs, the amount of TXCDBG funding available, all eligible TXCDBG activities, and the use of the past TXCDBG funds. The city encourages citizens to participate in the development of TXCDBG applications and to make their views known at the public hearing. Citizens unable to attend this meeting may submit their views and proposals to Jill Shelton, City Secretary at Bandera City Hall. Persons with disabilities that wish to attend this meeting should contact City Hall to arrange for assistance. Individuals who require auxiliary aids or services for the meeting should contact City Hall at least 2 days before the meeting so that appropriate arrangements can be made. And then it goes into Spanish, and I'm not going to try to read that to you. So, all that writing boils down to this. This is a fantastic opportunity for our community. I got an email from the TDA, that's the Texas Department of Agriculture, and you'll be hearing me say TDA and CDBG a lot. It took me 1.5 years to learn how to say CDBG without going through Community Development Block Grant. Anyway, so you'll hear those from me. I didn't recognize the email. I sent it off to our grant administrators, and they said, yes, by all means respond. I did. The first part of this was a brand new program. It's the Rural Economic Development Grant Pilot Program, brand new. According to Aubrey Gilmore at TDA, we were selected to get this grant. The first portion is $50,000. EDC has already approved the $5,000 match that is required. That leaves us $45,000 plus the $5,000 to procure a community development planner through the RFQ or the request for qualifications process. This is, so, then this planner will have another series of meetings, much like we did for the master plan, to assess the community needs. And it's a broad range. I'll get to that later. It was a broad range of eligible projects, okay? This planner, after all of these meetings, will come up with more than one project because not all projects will be TDA eligible for this funding. But when we get an eligible project, TDA approves, funding is the minimum is $750,000 to $1 million. And they're hoping to give more than that. So if we come up with a doozy, something that is not only for the city of Bandera, but for the entire community, because when you say Bandera, you're talking about everybody. The purpose of this meeting tonight is to get input from you and for council to hear and comments from council as well about what you think our needs are, be it education, transportation. There's just a broad range of needs that could be filled with this grant. That being said, Patricia is the one that actually got us into this thing, thank goodness. Patricia, would you like to speak to him for a minute, please?
Rebecca was present. We both learned about this grant at the same exact time on a Saturday in Leahy, Texas, of all places. And the Department of Agriculture lady that made the presentation said, we shouldn't even talk about this because the due date's Monday. This is Saturday afternoon. And she says, but the application is really very simple. So I went online, looked up the application, and I very truthfully could answer most of the questions readily from my lookups and knowledge of, of the community. So I got to the ending point and I thought, well, I'm not a legal city employee, nor am I a legal Economic Development Corporation person. So I told Laura what I was doing. I signed her name to it, and that's how it came to the city. Because Rebecca said, well, go for it, and I did. It's been a Sunday afternoon to leave it out. But what excites me so much, I think the community really gleaned a lot from the Simple City process that we went through. And I think bringing in somebody that looks with fresh eyes at our community, what we have, and I think we also all realize the shrinkage that Simple City brought to our attention with our economy. We are totally dependent on tourism, that's obvious. So something that can augment what we already do, whether it's education, transportation, something totally off the wall. I don't have the answers to that. That will be great for us. And we are a landlocked city based on the fact of our small footprint of the city limits. Simple City's given us some solutions to that. So securing a project that would allow people to want to move here that will not impact the environment greatly, because we all know we trust in water. So I look forward to some of that guidance with fresh eyes from, and I dare say, outsiders that can look into the forest and point some of the trees out to us. So, thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Laura, would you like to add something to that, since the EDC is already involved in this project?
I just basically like to say that we are super excited about this opportunity because I feel that this would give us a new look at things and help us better prepare and serve the community.
Thank you.
Thank y'all both for all your hard work.
Yeah, and I know that nobody's really had any time to really think about what sort of projects might be worthy of this grant, but do any of you have any ideas, something that could happen? Rebecca?
I want to ask a little bit about the specific language in this agenda first. So did this language come from TDA?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. So first thing it mentions is the citizen participation plan. Did they provide an outline for the citizen participation plan? Are we supposed to create our own, or is this it?
This is it.
Okay.
What, this is like, go ahead.
Well, that was just a piece. I just, if you would address the specific steps outlined in the agenda item from the plan, the citizen participation plan. You mentioned the development of local housing and community development needs, the amount of funding available, all eligible CDBG activities, and past CDBG funds.
In the past, our CDBG grants that we have gotten have been out of two different funds from them. One has been the capital fund, which allowed us to do the street at the Best Western. The rest of them have been from the infrastructure fund and have been to support infrastructure.
Okay. And this is geared specifically towards economic development.
Only to economic, this RED program, the Rural Economic Development Program, is only for economic development.
Okay. But we don't have specific eligibility requirements yet.
No, ma'am, absolutely not. That's the beauty of this plan. It's custom to fit our city. Whatever we come up with, if they feel it could be, I don't know, I can't imagine, but you know, there's another city that's already in it, and they did a trade school, did they not? One of the cities that they spoke.
Yes.
Laura was
Yes.
on that call. They used the funding to build a trade school, so it could be. It's thinking outside the box, looking for the creative uses for this. It's not housing. It's not, although this says housing, that is one of the basic CDBG fundamental grant opportunities. Jerry?
Is the project required to be in the city? I don't want to assume that. In other words, let's say you had a training facility or teaching facility, a vocational school, whatever. Could you have the building outside of the city?
That I don't know, that's a very good question. I've got a 1 o'clock Zoom meeting with Ms. Gilmore tomorrow,
Okay.
so that's a good question. How about you folks?
Can this grant be used as a matching grant?
No.
I just thought of that.
Well, who's
I
matching
mean,
it?
who would match?
Well, if you
Us.
got $1 million grant from the agriculture department, and there was some foundation that might, match that grant, it's probably not matchable, but if we could had a great project that did get funded, could we get somebody else?
So from stakeholders?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Okay, let me ask that question as well.
At least ask the question, and that way one can go to 2 maybe. All of a sudden you've got some.
Good question.
Good question. And again, I have this meeting at 1 o'clock
Yeah,
tomorrow with her, and
this
I'll be
is
sure and ask these
really
questions.
some sound.
Anything else?
I want to throw that out there.
Jack, where are you? Have you heard about this program before? Is it
Yes,
the
ma'am.
first you've heard of it? What do you think?
I've heard it discussed, Patricia and Margaret, I've heard it discuss it. I've read about it a little bit. I'm not involved in it, I'm just trying to learn just like everybody else. But one thing I did wonder was, is there anything possible for employers to be able to use part of it as training for employees, or something to that effect? For
You mean
local-
for training purposes? I don't know.
So, oh, go ahead. I was just gonna
Sorry.
respond to Jack's a little bit.
Go ahead.
So just to ask some questions about your idea, Jack. Are you suggesting maybe that it's set up like a fund to provide funds to local businesses for
No.
training their employees?
No, right now, from what I understand, or what I've read of it, it is, right now, there is no boundaries of what y'all wanna do. Okay, right now, there's no boundaries, the way I interpret what I've read. But that is something, if we're working on economic development for the town of Bandera, the city of Bandera, okay? There are employers here that may be able to help the employer and also help new employees. It just something I've thought of.
Okay, well, that's certainly something to explore. If you actually get a developer and begin to get deeper into this project, see where this.
I mean, right now, we have no roads to go down yet.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're just talking.
Yeah, and I want to stress that there is no wrong answer to any of this, Yes, Jerry?
Is it possible you can find out more details on the requirements for the projects tomorrow? Any type of details?
There are no
Such as-
requirements.
Well, such as, does it have to create jobs? What's,
What are the any
yeah,
eligible
that'll be in the
requirements to
second
qualify, huh?
That'll be in the second portion of this is just for the 50,000 to procure.
Yeah, for them to
plan.
go out and identify
And
projects.
then we identify the projects and the scope of where
I
we're gonna
understand
go.
that.
Okay.
But there should be
Yes,
some
Patricia.
requirements.
Was the $1 million scope, not the.
Right, so, right now is, I think what TDA is looking for, and you can correct me because you've been on more Zoom, is does the community want the opportunity to participate in this? And are we willing to work with someone that brings fresh eyes to the community? And it's still up to the community. There are no parameters that, and this is a pilot program. And TDA, what I learned, and Rebecca and I both learned, it's wide open, but TDA wants to show success with a minimum of 3 to 6 communities, so they have their feet wet. So what we may do here in Bandera, or that other community did, may be offline next time, but they want to know if this is a sustainable project for TDA. So we're the guinea pigs.
Laura, and then I'll call on Robert Coyne, he's signed up to speak.
The only thing I was gonna add to what Patricia said from what I got from our Zoom call was that they are looking for our community needs, and that's really what they want us to identify possibly in this meeting, is how I interpreted it.
Well, you know,
That's what the
you can
agenda
define
says,
economic
too.
development, well, not define, but one attributing factor to economic development is bringing folks to town, you know, if they, our economy is based on tourism, we don't have an industry, we don't have a railway, a waterway, a major highway. We're a little 1.5 square mile town that thrives on visitors. But as the community, again, it's gonna be a community decision. I'm so, I guess, got my blinders on. I can't think of anything. You know, wait a minute. Ma'am,
I have several citizen comments with ideas that they would like for me to read tonight.
would you please
So if
do
you'd
that?
like me to start there, maybe that can give some ideas for people
Well,
that
we
don't
don't
have
make any
any.
decisions tonight, remember, this is
Yes.
just an
No,
information
but-
thing.
Brainstorm.
It
Yes.
says for them to email me, and I've got lots of emails,
Yes,
so
great.
if you don't mind. Robert Horn was one, but he is here to speak, so I'll skip him for now. This came from Susie Lewis. In regards to the upcoming community meeting regarding grant money and possible projects to help improve the community, I'd like to suggest a family-friendly playground that includes multiple age-level playground equipment and picnic tables in a covered shaded area, which would also include a seasonal splash pad. While I understand that tourism is a big part of Bandera's economic future, it would be an extremely nice and family-friendly addition to our town and beneficial to current families, future families, and even tourists to have a nice play area for children and families to enjoy at no charge to them. I'm not a fan of comparisons, so to simply state the facts, 2 of our neighboring towns have free, beautiful park, play, and/or splash pad areas available for all to use and enjoy. There is not a place like that in Bandera for families to freely enjoy year-round. It would be a huge improvement to our community for something like that to be available to be enjoyed now and for generations to come. And that's from Susie Lewis.
Thank you.
We also have citizen Lynn Palmer. Lynn Palmer says, I have been resided in the city of Bandera for 30 years. I'm a registered voter, property owner, and taxpayer. In my view, for any real economic growth in the city and its jurisdiction outside the city limits, the board needs to concentrate on a new wastewater treatment site. The taxpayers just spent an appropriate amount of funds with Simple City to develop a comprehensive plan for the city, Bandera 2040, true to its roots, to be used as a guide towards the development of Bandera in the future. The city's wastewater treatment plant is located in the floodway of the Medina River. TCQ has instructed the city to relocate this plant outside the floodway. The comprehensive plan cites this is a priority for the economic growth of Bandera. That advised that it is unrealistic to add any other projects at this time. Please use all your efforts, funds, grants, available EDC funds to accomplish this major project. If the city does not have a wastewater treatment plant, there will be no economic growth for the city of Bandera. I love Bandera, and in my view, the wastewater treatment plant should be a top priority to ensure economic growth, not a grant to hire an economic development firm. Keep supporting the many established events that bring in visitors and tourists year after year, keeping Bandera Western in our brand, tourists like walking back in time. Thank you in advance for your consideration and attention to a new wastewater treatment site for the future and real economic growth of Bandera. And then she added an additional comment to Christine, which said there will be a flood and it takes out the wastewater treatment plant. the city of Bandera has no future. The Economic Development Board can use the comprehensive study to move forward with encouraging economic growth in Bandera. The council needs to concentrate on the real needs of Bandera, the wastewater treatment site improvement in the flow of traffic on Main Street. And we have one that went to Mayor Pro Tem Gibson from Patty Adamson. She says, I was a young girl when we had the 7-year drought here in Bandera from 1950 to 1957. I remember the creeks and rivers dried up and wildlife and farm animals were starving and suffering from lack of water. This summer reminds me of that time. Although it was really worse back then and we didn't have the population that we do now. My maternal grandparents lived in the country and relied on their cistern and collected rainwater, as they had drilled 3 wells and got GYP water, not too good to drink and very hard water, but the cisterns were dry, so they had to haul water from somewhere. I got to thinking about collecting rainwater and have an idea. This grant we are speaking about might be used, or some of it used, to help in full or partially help with funding so more folks in the city could install rain guttering and rain collection containers. The process isn't too expensive and the water could be used to take care of outside yard and plants needs, or could be boiled for home use for cooking. An inch of rain on a 1,000 square foot roof would almost fill a 1,000 gallon collection tank, and that is a small one. And even a heavy dew does collect some water. Please give this idea some consideration since the grant is from the TDA. This idea would certainly fall into their interest. With increasing population, not just in the city, but our whole county, we are going to face a water shortage soon, like it or not. Thank you, and I hope this reaches you. That was Patty Adamson. And then I got something from Diane Payne that says grant part 2, but I didn't get part 1. So I emailed her back and said I didn't get part 1. And it says, our town is the only one in the area that does not have a public swimming pool. This grant may be the solution to this problem. Diane Payne. And last but certainly not least, we have Jason Boyd. Hi, I'd like to throw in a suggestion for the Rural Economic Grant, an urban outdoor community fitness park consisting of walking, biking, outdoor fitness machines, equipment, exercise stations, an outdoor yoga space, etc. There could also be a space for a smoothie juice bar, bicycle rental, a large projection screen for outdoor family movie nights, etc. While something like this could be a great benefit to the entire community for obvious reasons, there are financial benefits that could be realized here as well by utilizing the park in conjunction with the wellness program for the city/county employees or any other businesses that wanted to create one. I have researched that shows wellness programs can have an ROI benefit,
Return on investment.
3-to-1 to 7-to-1, depending on the quality of a program. I've also seen numbers as high as 30-to-1 and even 6,000-to-1 in the case of the years of Reno Police Department, where a $324,000 investment realized a savings of $25 million in the first 3 years. I'm happy to meet and share more in-depth details and ideas to help brainstorm the project should an outdoor fitness park be considered, regardless of whether wellness programs were a part of the picture. Thank you, Jason Boyd.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from Robert now, please. Mr. Coyne?
Yes.
Prior to my involvement with the city here and work at the city of Castroville, I had written an article in the Bandera Bulletin for a couple of years worth. That's been about 8 or 9 years ago. And I saw your notice on the internet today for the first time, so I went through some of my old files and I pulled out 4 articles that I'd like to leave a copy with that address this issue. One of them is called "Is Tourism Our Only Industry?" Another one is "Tourism Industry, More Detail." Another one is our economy and development potential. And the other one is economic impact of the arts. Now, these all address some of the issues that we've been talking about this evening. Back then, there was no federally identified tourism on the calendar or the chart of events that they have listed for, I forget what they call it now, but anyway, it wasn't listed at all. So one of the articles that I wrote actually went down and pulled bits and pieces out of 10 different headings from that listing of industries that would apply to Bandera, but there's no tourism industry listed. So anyway, I'd like to leave these here.
Thank you.
Jill, would you take us, and she'll be sure they're distributed. That's
Okay.
interesting information, Robert.
And I just went through, like I said, I've got a couple hundred articles that I wrote for the paper, and I just went through it real fast on the computer to pick up the headlines. There's some other articles I know I had written, but I couldn't locate. So I'm real happy to see y'all moving forward with this. It's something needed for quite a while.
You've got my email, so send it to me.
Okay,
It'll be fine.
all right, thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Okay, other comments? Anyone? Yes, John?
What is the timeline? Is there a
Okay,
established timeline for application?
The initial $50,000 application has to be submitted by August 31st. I have to have it finished, or we, because I say I, it's on my computer, but we have to have it available for the public to view 5 days before it's filed. So we will work on that. Hopefully by the end of next week, we can have all the narratives filled out and it's ready to go. And let me tell you, this is kind of scary too. The original deadline was July 31st. And July the 19th, I believe it was, we were sitting around going, nobody's answering our emails, our phone calls, there's nobody there. And then we got an email blessedly that said, it's been extended to August 31st, knock yourselves out and get busy. So that was a frightening time. But that's, we should have it ready, just for the 50,000 to procure the planner. This has nothing to do with what the project is going to be.
That's a short fuse.
And the narrative on the application, and this is just reaching off the top of my head here, Patricia will be helping because she does a great job, you know. Bandera's a small rural community, isolated, tourism's our only industry. We look for, you know, she'll figure it out. So it's a great effort here, guys. She knows all the answers. She got us this thing to start with, so she'll be helping us a lot.
I'll work in unison with you. I will not do it myself now.
Well, I can get it up on your computer and we can fix it. Okay, any other comments, folks? Questions, council? Yes, ma'am.
Well, if we're just brainstorming things that we need, of course, what comes into my head are, well, what are the top priorities that we're already working toward? I haven't been to any of these meetings, so I don't know, but I'm sure we do have some. But things that pop into my head that we don't have in this town are delivery service or taxi service, or even something that could double as both.
Transportation would be.
Yes. That's right. And walkable areas.
Well, you know, in response to those emails, I'm not going to go into any detail, but we already have a fantastic playground that's Texas Parks and Wildlife grant supported. That should be finished soon, we hope. Not finished, started soon. It's been approved, we're good to go, we just haven't gotten construction done yet. The wastewater treatment plant will have a meeting next Wednesday to discuss revisions to that plan, and, you know, so some of these things we're already working on, so just know that we're not sitting here not concerned about community needs. Rebecca?
I really like a lot of the ideas that were read into the record, so for those folks that emailed in, that was really fantastic to hear from you. I love the idea of really aggressively trying to find some type of low impact development manufacturing, some kind of product that, and there are some, you know, you have Collins, you've got a few unique Hi-O Silver, you know, more of that could be really good. So I know there are strategic plans to recruit certain types of manufacturing businesses. Now, I heard mention of the wastewater treatment plant. Of course, that is a huge focus of ours right now, and we're aggressively seeking funds. Next Wednesday, our city engineer should be presenting to us some cost analysis of kind of the current model of wastewater treatment plant and the construction costs, which I believe includes still dumping effluent into our water systems, which I am adamantly against, and I really think that we can work hard to find the funding to do a quality wastewater treatment plant that either uses aquifer storage and recharge or land application. There's a model of a wastewater treatment plant in Texas, I believe it's in Wichita Falls, where they made a massive park. So when I heard Jason's suggestion of this like fitness park, it might sound strange, but you do clean the water to a degree, and then you inject it into natural infrastructure systems that continues to filter through rocks and roots and things, and it allows it to seep down back into our groundwater if it's in the right location, and that communicates. You can build a beautiful space. So I wonder about land acquisition with the grant for a project. And to me, if you could combine the wastewater treatment plant with responsible discharge of the effluent with a great outdoor space project, I think that would be a huge win for the whole community.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I have a few more, but
No,
go ahead.
may I clarify on that particular point? The workshop next week is to discuss the cost difference between
Cost
the
difference.
current
Yes.
and then to the zero discharge and the
Yes.
TLAP and how
The
much
cost
land.
analysis.
Yes, but you
Right.
didn't mention the fact that it was about the zero discharge.
I didn't get to that, right.
Yeah.
It is,
That's
the cost
the important, yeah,
comparison
don't think we're gonna
between
talk about the
the two.
wastewater treatment plant
That'll
again,
be handled next week.
but something different, slightly different. Okay,
So-
go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. Now, and Patricia, you did mention Simple City and this beautiful piece of work that they worked very hard with the community. So this piece has a tremendous amount of community involvement from all of the meetings that were held over a year's time or more. And there are 10 projects identified here. And one of them, Main streetscape improvements, so that could include your sidewalks and walkability. But the old jail project, which is kind of on Judge Evans' radar to some extent. I don't know if y'all are budgeting anything for it this year. But I think, and we've got even sketches and kind of like preliminary designs done. That could be a really great project for this fund too.
What is is an old jail to do what?
So the old jail and courthouse, the county has its sights set on renovating at some point. And what Simple City did for us was they just kind of designed the outdoor space, and they created it like this beautiful place for gathering, access down to the river, more parking for the jail behind here. So, where am I? I don't know. Well, I'll show you this later. But it's a lot of the work is already done. And so for the city planners to have had all of that time and all of those meetings and all of that input, and these are the things that they suggested for ways to grow and improve, we've kind of got that resource available. And then the other, just one thing I think I would mention is, two things, sorry. The Economic Development Corporation owns a piece of land across from the high school practice field. I always envisioned that being a trade school where the high school students could walk to. We have a certain number of programs and certifications that they can achieve while they're still in high school, but it could also be an adult education center as well. One last thing, sorry, and I'll stop, is building a tennis court facility. That's something that the ISD has wanted to do and partner with the city for some time. And there could be a sport event project. And that could lead to tournaments, being hosted by the ISD, and there is a lot of economic development in that aspect of the use of the tennis courts.
Patricia.
Commissioner Jack had his hand up first.
Jack, I can't see you behind the podium.
I'm sorry. I would say that I went to most of those Simple City meetings, and I think that was one of the best things the city did. There's a lot in there that y'all can take out that you can use for this. I really thought that was a good move there, and I liked what they did. As far as the old jail and courthouse, 2 commissioner courts ago, we approved to go out with an RFQ to get a new architect to come in and do it.
Excellent.
That has not gone out because we were dotting the i's and crossing the t's, and we came up with a few bumps. I am putting it back up at Commissioner's Court next week, next
Great.
court, to just change the dates. We've made the changes that need to be done. I need to change the dates for the RFQ. Hopefully, then it will be reapproved, and then it will go into the newspaper, online, and there's about a 6-week turnaround from the time that starts, no, that's a little more, about 8 weeks, 2 months. From that time to the time that it comes back to Commissioner's Court to decide what we're gonna do with the architect.
Thank you, Jack. Yes, Patricia.
What I was gonna say when I was standing up, I personally don't wanna offer a lot of ideas. The trade school's a wonderful idea. But as a new industry, don't shudder, but how many of us in this room are going to get our computer fixed? So something that would specialize in tech in that industry school. Or what if the tech school or trade school taught forging and how to be a farrier? I mean, so all of this can combine, but I think just like Simple City didn't ask us a lot of questions, they did, but they walked the streets. And I hope the consulting firm will walk the streets and ask the appropriate questions that will then percolate correct wishes or correct dreams. Because a lot of these projects we've talked about, trade school would cost $1 million, no question, or more. And some of them can be added on, like you've got a park going. So what will be beneficial to the community now and also really improve economic development? Thank you.
Suzanne, does it say anywhere how much of it has to tie into tourism?
No, that's
None.
not, no,
And it
that's
does
the whole
not have
point.
to.
That's the
Oh,
whole
I
point.
thought it did have.
No,
No.
no.
Not at all.
That's why,
Okay.
look at the benefit, and I'm sorry I can't remember the small town, where Wilson gloves are made, baseball gloves. It's a small little town, you went to it.
That's Tacoma.
Dakota.
Huh? Yes, it is Nakona.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It's not Wilson, it's Dakota.
Oh, Nakona gloves, I'm sorry. But I mean, that is their hook. American Hat Company is made in American hats are made in a small town up around, in Buda, American Hat Company?
There is one there too.
Okay, so they opened a branch in Buda. So then, I can't imagine American Hat Company would really impact our environment. That would be something to employ. But we also need to get new employees, new bodies here. Because I think everybody sitting in this room that's an employer, me included, want employees.
Laura.
Amazing.
One thing that we haven't mentioned, that is a community need, especially for our seniors, is additional medical, someplace for them to get their x-rays, get their lab work done, emergency. If you need TPA, if you're having a stroke, you've got 30 minutes to get it started. Well, if you're coming from Vanderpool, it takes 30 minutes to get here. That's another need that I think we need to be sure to identify tonight.
So this is just the tip of the iceberg, just the beginning of the process. Any last comments from y'all out there? Council, closing comments?
So the application will be up for, I wouldn't wait till the 5 days immediately before it's due in case there are any suggestions or
We're
comments.
kind of lucky at all, we'll have it by the end of next week, which will be the 12th.
Okay.
Is
Yes,
this
sir.
a one-time grant? Just
Yes, sir.
A one-shot?
One shot.
So we need to focus on getting them the most bang for the buck. And it may be that you could, the park, you know, the old jail, take a portion of that, and the Simple City, we probably need to look at those 10 things. And pick one or two or three and divvy it up so that we get the most impact, most bang for our buck, possibly.
Well, let's
And
see this,
budgetary
let's see the structure of the funding once we get it and see
Right.
how they're gonna allow us to do it. Laura?
Just one more thing I wanted to add that they brought up on our call was that even if the projects that we select do not fall under the Texas Department of Agriculture projects, they can deliver our project to another Texas agency department that it might fall under.
And they will work with
also
whatever
work
we,
that out
the
also.
4, I'm hoping we come up with 4 viable projects.
Right.
And they said they would work with us to help us make it fit their program as well as help us get funding for other programs. So,
Well, and I really appreciate Johnny's comment too about can we couple these funds with other funds and other grants?
But if this agency will carry our water, so to speak, for a grant that doesn't fit them, and they can guide us to another grant, we can get a lot done.
No. We've been working with TDA and the TDEM, the Texas Department of Emergency Management, for some other grants. And they have been extremely helpful in these Zoom calls, going, no, don't phrase it like this, say something like that, you know. So they've really been helpful in us accomplishing it and getting these different grants. It's been very helpful, instead of just going, no, not this year, you know. So it's been a good process. Okay. Anybody else?
Suzanne, can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I'm just reading the email that was sent about tonight's meeting, and it says in there, the plan cannot address the needs of infrastructure. A lot of what I have seen, heard, you may have a hard time distinguishing between that and infrastructure. We'll close it out there before you start working on phase 2.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to complete phase 1 because there's been open discussion on what an economic development specialist's job role is. Because it's separate from what Simple City would have produced for us. It's complementary to what Simple City does, but it's at a totally different level. So yes, they do complement. It's a totally different concept.
Right.
You're shaking your head correct, Charles, so did I say that adequately?
William.
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 Yes, absolutely.
Did I say that correctly?
Absolutely, right. Because one's a consultant, you know, so they kind of, they can drill down in what the scope of the project. Whereas an economic developer is, if they're a specialist or above, is certified, you can pick them up and you can set them in Bandera, Texas, or New York City. And they should be able to run economic development, so that's the big difference.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's why I wanted to say that. And they'll tell us some things, whether we like them or not.
Okay, council, we about done here, folks? All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Rebecca. Jerry's second. Discussion? Thank you all so
guys
much.
for coming.
Yes, thank you.
We will
Yes, thank
have,
you, everybody.
keep
for
you
attending.
all informed how it's going. All in favor?
I'll share a post again when
All in,
we're having that
Jerry,
next
raise your
meeting.
hand.
Sure to do that.
Jerry, raise your
Raise
hand.
your
All in
hand.
favor? All in favor, none opposed. 6:15.